My son Marcus slammed the bank forms on my kitchen table with such force that my coffee mug jumped. "From now on, I want your paycheck sent to my account," he announced, his wife Jennifer standing behind him with crossed arms. At 68, living alone since Martha passed, I'd been managing fine on my pension and Social Security. I looked at the authorization forms, then at my 35-year-old son's entitled face, and smiled. "Of course, son. Whatever you need." That night changed everything. The morning after Marcus dropped his financial bombshell, I sat in my empty kitchen stirring cold coffee, thinking about how we got here. The house felt different now, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Through the window, I watched cardinals pecking at the feeder Martha had insisted we hang 20 years ago. She always said birds brought good luck. I wondered what she'd think about our son now. Marcus wasn't always like this. I remembered the boy who used to help me in the garage, his small hands covered in motor oil, eyes bright with curiosity, as we rebuilt the engine of a '67 Mustang. "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be just like you," he'd said, then gap-toothed grin spreading across his face. Martha and I had sacrificed everything for that boy. I worked double shifts at Boeing, designing mechanical systems for commercial aircraft, while Martha took in sampling work to pay for his private school tuition. We drove the same Honda Civic for 15 years, so Marcus could have new basketball shoes, clarinet lessons, and summer science camps. When he got accepted to Ohio State, Martha cried tears of joy. We refinanced the house to cover what scholarships didn't. "He's going to have opportunities we never did," she'd whispered that night, her head on my shoulder as we looked at the acceptance letter together. The change started slowly, like rust spreading on metal. After college, Marcus landed a good job at a marketing firm in downtown Columbus. He met Jennifer at a networking event, and within 6 months they were engaged. Martha had concerns from the start. "There's something cold in that girl's eyes," she'd said after their first dinner together. I dismissed it as typical mother-in-law worry. But Martha saw what I missed. Jennifer came from money, or at least acted like she did. Her designer handbags insisted on eating at restaurants we couldn't pronounce, and had a way of looking at our modest 3-bedroom ranch like she was visiting a quaint museum. Marcus began apologizing for us. "My parents are simple people." I overheard him tell Jennifer's parents at their engagement party. The words cut deeper than any knife could. After the wedding, an elaborate affair that ate up most of our remaining savings, because Jennifer insisted on the country club venue, the visits became transactional. They'd show up when the car needed repairs, when their credit cards were maxed, when the rent was overdue. Marcus would shuffle his feet, avoid eye contact, and mumble about temporary setbacks, while Jennifer waited in the car, engine running. "Hello, son," became, "How much do you need this time?" But we gave it. Martha couldn't bear to see him struggle, even as the struggles seemed manufactured. The temporary setbacks became permanent fixtures. They moved to a luxury apartment downtown, leased a BMW neither could afford, and posted pictures of weekend trips to Chicago and Nashville, while we patched our 30-year-old roof with tarps during rain. Then, Martha got sick. Pancreatic cancer, the doctor said. 6 months, if we were lucky. Marcus visited exactly 3 times during those final weeks. Jennifer came once, spent the entire visit on her phone, and left early, citing a yoga class. When Martha passed, holding my hand and worried about leaving me alone, Marcus gave a beautiful eulogy about family values that made the congregation weep. He left immediately after the service for a previously planned vacation to Cabo. That was 2 years ago. Since then, I'd existed in a comfortable routine. Morning coffee tinkering in the garage, lunch with my neighbor Frank at the diner afternoon, walks, evening news, and bed by 9:30. My Boeing pension and Social Security covered everything I needed. The life insurance from Martha sat untouched in savings. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor either. Comfortable, as my generation liked to say. What Marcus didn't know, what I'd never felt the need to advertise, was that 35 years of engineering work at Boeing, including several patents for hydraulic systems still in use today, had accumulated into a substantial retirement portfolio. Stock options, 401k matches, and careful investing guided by common sense rather than greed had grown into something significant. Martha and I had lived below our means not from necessity in later years, but from habit and contentment. The signs of their latest scheme had been accumulating like storm clouds. 3 months ago, Marcus started calling regularly, asking about my health, my daily routine, whether I was keeping track of things okay. Jennifer suddenly developed an interest in my well-being, sending texts about the dangers of seniors living alone. They dropped by unannounced, Jennifer's eyes, scanning every room like an appraiser. Frank noticed it too. "That boy of yours was here Tuesday, while you were at your cardiology appointment," he'd mentioned over coffee last week. Frank Rodriguez, retired Columbus police detective, lived 2 doors down and had the instincts of a bloodhound even at 72. "Saw him going through your mailbox then, letting himself in with a key. Stayed about an hour." I'd nodded, filing the information away. The mailbox observation explained why my Social Security statement had been opened and carefully resealed. Amateur work, really. You could see the glue marks if you looked closely. That night, I'd checked my home office. Everything appeared normal, but I'd worked with enough precise measurements to know when things had been moved by millimeters. My filing cabinet showed subtle scratches around the lock. The dust pattern on my desk was disturbed where someone had moved my pension documents. The coffee had gone completely cold now. I dumped it out and made fresh a routine that grounded me. Outside, more cardinals had joined the feast at the feeder. Martha always said they appeared in times of need, messengers from beyond. I smiled at the thought, then noticed something that made my blood chill. Martha's jewelry box, which always sat on our dresser, visible from the kitchen, if you angled just right, was gone. I walked to the bedroom, each step measured. The indentation in the dresser scarf confirmed what I already knew. They'd taken it during yesterday's visit, probably while I was making coffee, and Marcus kept me busy with forms. Inside that box wasn't just Martha's modest jewelry collection, mostly anniversary gifts and family heirlooms. There was also a small brass key, unmarked and unremarkable, that opened a safety deposit box at First National downtown. Standing in the bedroom, Martha and I had shared for 38 years, looking at the empty space where her memories had been. Something shifted in me. It wasn't rage exactly. It was colder, more precise. The engineer in me began calculating, planning, designing a solution to this particular problem. I picked up the phone and dialed information I'd memorized, but never used. "Sterling Law Office," the receptionist answered. "This is Harry Peterson," I said, my voice steady. "I need to speak with Robert Sterling about an urgent matter. Tell him it concerns safeguarding assets and potential elder fraud. I'll need an appointment as soon as possible." After hanging up, I made one more call. "Frank, it's Harry. You mentioned you still have contacts from your detective days. I might need a recommendation for a private investigator, the kind who specializes in family matters." Through the window, the cardinals continued their feast, their red bodies bright against the gray February sky. Martha was right. They did appear in times of need. But sometimes, I thought they also appeared when justice needed to be served. The next morning arrived with freezing rain that turned my driveway into a skating rink. I was spreading rock salt when Marcus's BMW pulled up its tires, struggling for purchase on the ice. Jennifer emerged first, her heels immediately finding the worst possible spot. She slipped, arms windmilling, and I caught her elbow before she could fall. "Careful there," I said, steadying her. Martha always said February ice has a mind of its own. Jennifer yanked her arm away, regaining composure. "We need better maintenance on this driveway, Harold. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen." Harold. She knew I preferred Harry, had known it for 7 years. Marcus followed, carrying a briefcase that looked new, and behind him came a third person I didn't recognize. Tall, slicked-back hair, wearing a suit that screamed, "Trying too hard." "Dad, this is Derek Walsh," Marcus announced as they crowded into my kitchen. "He's a financial advisor who specializes in senior asset management." Derek extended a manicured hand. His grip was deliberately firm, the kind men use when they want to establish dominance. "Mr. Peterson, I've heard so much about you. Marcus speaks highly of your career at Boeing." I shook his hand, noting the Rolex peek out from his cuff. "Coffee." I offered already, knowing they'd refuse. People planning to take advantage of you rarely accept hospitality. It creates obligation. "We're good," Jennifer said, settling at my kitchen table like she owned it. "We have a lot to discuss." Derek opened his briefcase with theatrical precision, spreading documents across the table Martha had bought at an estate sale in '94. "Mr. Peterson, your son, has expressed concerns about your financial vulnerability. At your age, managing complex assets can become overwhelming." "Overwhelming," I repeated, putting a slight tremor in my voice. "Yes, I suppose it can be." Marcus leaned forward, and I caught something in his eyes. Not quite guilt, but its nervous cousin. "Dad, we've created a comprehensive care plan. It'll take the burden off your shoulders." "Burden?" I echoed, letting my eyes go slightly unfocused. "Martha used to handle most of the bills." Jennifer and Derek exchanged glances, the kind predators share when prey walks into view. Derek pulled out a document, dense with legal language. "This grants Marcus full power of attorney over your financial affairs. For your protection, of course." "Of course," I murmured, picking up the papers with shaking hands I'd practiced in the mirror that morning. "This is a lot of words." "Don't worry about the details," Jennifer said, her voice taking on a false sweetness. "We've had lawyers review everything. It's all standard." "Standard," I repeated, then looked at Marcus. "You'd take care of everything. Like when you were little, and helped with the garage." Something flickered across my son's face. Memory, perhaps, or the ghost of who he used to be. "Yeah, Dad, I'll handle it all." I started reading, running my finger under each line slowly. "What's this about residential transition?" Derek jumped in smoothly. "Just routine language about potential future needs. Nothing immediate." "Oh." I paused at a particular section. "Sunrise Manor. That's the nice place on Riverside Drive, isn't it?" Jennifer's mask slipped for a second. "You know Sunrise Manor." "Drove past it once. Very pretty. Martha would have liked the gardens." I set the papers down. "I need to use the restroom. Old bladder, you know." I shuffled toward the stairs, adding a slight catch to my step I'd observed at the senior center. Once in the bathroom, I pulled out my phone and speed-dialed Frank. "They're here," I whispered. "3 of them." The supposed financial advisor looks like Jennifer's type. "Can you run a Derek Walsh through your connections?" "On it," Frank replied. "You holding up okay?" "Playing the part. They've already mentioned Sunrise Manor." "Bastards. Want me to come over?" "No. Let them think I'm alone. But maybe park where you can see my driveway." "Already in position, brother. Navy habits die hard." I flushed for effect, ran the water, and made my way back downstairs, slowly gripping the railing. They'd been whispering, but stopped when I appeared. "Sorry," I said, settling back at the table. "Where do I sign?" "Here, here, and here." Derek pointed, producing an expensive-looking pen. I took it, then squinted. I forgot my reading glasses. "Marcus, what's today's date?" "February 15th, he said. I carefully wrote February 15th, 2023, instead of 25. A simple mistake any confused elderly person might make, but one that would invalidate the documents if they tried to use them immediately. I'd learned that trick from Robert Sterling yesterday. "Perfect," Derek said, not noticing the error in his eagerness to collect the papers. Jennifer was already standing anxious to leave, now that they'd gotten what they came for. As they prepared to go, she casually asked, "By the way, Harry, where do you keep your important documents, just so Marcus knows in case of emergency?" "Oh, here and there," I said vaguely. Martha had a system. I've been meaning to organize everything. They left in a flurry of false concern and promises to check in soon. I watched from the window as their BMW slipped and slid down the driveway. Only after they turned the corner did I head upstairs to check the master bedroom thoroughly. The jewelry box wasn't the only thing missing. Martha's antique silver brush, set a wedding gift from her grandmother, was gone. So was the small, painted portrait of her parents that had hung by the dresser. But it was the last discovery that made my hands clench. The top drawer of my dresser had been carefully searched. The envelope where I kept cash for emergencies was still there, but exactly half the bills were missing. They'd been smart enough not to take it all, thinking I might not notice $500 disappearing from a $1,000 stash. But I noticed. I sat on the bed Martha and I had shared in the room, where we'd whispered dreams and fears, where she'd taken her last breath holding my hand, and I noticed everything. My phone buzzed. Frank. Harry, your boy, just peeled out of here like his tail was on fire. But here's the interesting thing. That Derek Walsh. He's not registered as a financial advisor in Ohio. But he is on my radar for something else. Seems he was questioned 2 years ago in connection with a romance scam targeting elderly widows. No charges filed, but the detective on the case noted he was living with a woman named Jennifer Brennan at the time. That's your daughter-in-law's maiden name, isn't it? I closed my eyes. The pieces were falling into place like tumblers in a lock. Frank. I need the name of that private investigator. Already texted it to you. Tom Kowalski, best in the business. Discreet, thorough, and takes special interest in family fraud cases. Lost his own mother to something similar. After Frank hung up, I walked to the closet and moved aside the shoeboxes on the top shelf. Behind them, untouched, was a small fireproof safe they hadn't found. Inside were the real important documents, the ones that mattered. Martha's handwritten will, leaving her jewelry to our daughter Susan, the deed to the house, and a business card for a safety deposit box at a bank Marcus didn't even know existed. They thought they were stealing from a confused old man. They had no idea they were attempting to rob someone who'd spent 35 years designing fail-safe systems for aircraft. Someone who understood redundancy backup plans, and most importantly, how to identify catastrophic failure before it happened. I picked up the phone again. Tom Kowalski. This is Harry Peterson. Frank Rodriguez gave me your number. I need your help with a delicate family matter. How soon can we meet? Through the bedroom window, I could see the bird feeder. The cardinals were back, their red forms, vivid against the darkening sky. Martha always said they were survivors, that their brightness wasn't a weakness, but a warning. Predators saw them coming and knew they weren't easy prey. I was beginning to understand what she meant. Tom Kowalski looked nothing like the private investigators in movies. No trench coat, no fedora, just a stocky Polish American in his 50s, wearing khakis and a Ohio State sweatshirt. We met at a truck stop diner on Route 23, far enough from my neighborhood that no one would recognize us. Frank filled me in on the basics. Tom said, stirring sugar into black coffee. But I need to hear it from you. Everything. I told him about the missing jewelry, the falsified documents, Derek Walsh. Tom took notes in a small notebook, his handwriting precise despite the speed. The safety deposit box key concerns me, he said. If they have it, they might try to access it. They can try, I said. But it's registered to require 2 forms of ID and my physical presence. I set that up years ago. Tom smiled for the first time. Engineer. Boeing. 35 years. My dad worked the assembly line at Ford. Always said engineers think 3 steps ahead. He closed his notebook. Here's what I propose. Surveillance on your son and his wife. Background check on Derek Walsh that goes deeper than police records. Financial forensics if we find evidence of debts or hidden assets. 5,000 retainer additional costs, billed as incurred. I pulled out a cashier's check I'd prepared. 10,000. I want priority service. Tom studied me. This isn't about revenge. It's about protection. Mine and others who might come after me. Fair enough. He pocketed the check. Give me a week. I'll have preliminary findings. That week passed in careful routine. I maintained my normal schedule coffee with Frank grocery shopping on Tuesday, doctor's appointment Thursday. But underneath, I was building my fortress. Robert Sterling helped establish a limited liability company I'd formed years ago for consulting work, but never used. Through it, I opened new accounts at 3 different banks each, in a different part of Columbus. The process of moving money required precision. Too fast, and it would trigger reports. Too slow, and Marcus might notice. I transferred funds in amounts just under $10,000, spacing them out using different methods. Wire transfers, cashier's checks, even old-fashioned personal checks to myself. Within 5 days, I'd moved $800,000 from my primary accounts, leaving just enough to avoid suspicion. My Boeing pension and Social Security would continue depositing to the account Marcus now monitored. $2,000 a month would accumulate there enough to make them think they were winning, while I repositioned the real assets. The remaining $400,000 stayed in the original investment accounts, but I changed the beneficiaries from Marcus to Susan, with specific instructions that disbursement required legal verification of my death or incapacitation. Tom called on Thursday evening. "Can you meet tomorrow?" Same place. This time he brought a manila folder, thick with documents and photos. "Your son owes $43,000 to a bookie named Vincent Torino. Not the kind of guy who accepts payment plans." The photos showed Marcus entering a rundown building in the Bottoms Columbus's forgotten industrial district. Timestamps showed visits at 2-3 in the morning. Gambling. Sports betting mainly. Started small, got desperate, borrowed to cover losses, borrowed more to cover the borrowing. Classic spiral. I turned to the next section. Photos of Jennifer and Derek at a Marriott downtown, entering together, leaving together 2 hours later. Date stamps going back 4 months. "They're not subtle," Tom observed. "Your daughter-in-law charges the room to a credit card in her name. The affair's been going on since at least October, before they started showing interest in my finances." Here's where it gets interesting. Tom pulled out financial records. Derek Walsh has a pattern. He identifies married women with access to family money, begins affairs, then helps them extract assets from husbands or in-laws. He's got 2 exes who fit the profile, both of whom divorced shortly after significant assets went missing from their families. A professional predator, with your daughter-in-law as his latest partner. But here's the kicker. Tom showed me corporate records. 3 weeks ago, Jennifer incorporated an LLC in Delaware. Guess who's listed as co-owner? Derek. And guess what property they put an offer on last week? He showed me a real estate listing. A $500,000 house in Upper Arlington, Columbus's golden suburb. The offer letter listed my address as Jennifer's current residence and mentioned anticipated family financial support. "They're already spending my money," I said. "Money they think is coming." Which brings me to the really bad news. Tom's expression darkened. Marcus isn't just a victim here. I found evidence he's been in contact with a company called Senior Transitions. They specialize in what they call managed residential placement. Fancy words for getting elderly relatives declared incompetent and placed in facilities while families take control of assets. The diner coffee turned bitter in my mouth. My own son was planning to have me institutionalized. "There's more," Tom continued. "That jewelry they took Jennifer had it appraised yesterday at Gold Standard Jewelers. The Martha's grandmother's ring alone was valued at $12,000. Victorian era, perfect clarity stones. Martha's ring. The one she'd worn every day of our marriage. The one she'd whispered should go to Susan's daughter. Something cold and precise crystallized in my chest. "I need everything documented," I said. "Every photo, every transaction, every communication you can legally obtain. Already working on it. But Harry, you need to be careful. Desperate people do desperate things." I thought about the banking forms with the wrong date. The money quietly moving to safety. The cameras Frank had helped me install around my property last night. I'm being careful, but they're not the only ones who can plan ahead. That night I called Susan in California. "Honey, I might need you to come visit soon." "Is everything okay, Dad?" "It will be." "How's Emma doing?" Emma, my granddaughter, light of Martha's final years. Growing like a weed. She asked about Grandma's ring again yesterday. I told her she needs to wait until she's older. Maybe not as long as we thought, I said. Susan, I need to tell you some things about your brother. The conversation was hard, but necessary. Susan listened, asked sharp questions, her mother's intelligence shining through. By the end, she was angry, but not surprised. Mom worried about this, she said. The last time we talked, she made me promise to watch out for you. She said Marcus was losing himself. She saw things clearer than I did. No, Dad. You see them. You just love him anyway. There's a difference. After we hung up, I sat in my workshop, surrounded by half-finished projects. A jewelry box I'd been making for Emma, carved with hummingbirds because she loved them. Martha's gardening tools cleaned and oiled, waiting for spring. The '67 Mustang engine rebuilt, but never reinstalled, a father-son project abandoned when the son lost interest. Frank knocked and entered without waiting for an answer, a privilege earned by 40 years of friendship. How you holding up? Learning things I didn't want to know. That's the worst part of betrayal, Frank said, settling onto a stool. Not the act itself, but discovering it was planned. They had Martha's jewelry appraised today. Frank's face darkened. He'd known Martha since we moved to the neighborhood. She'd nursed his wife through cancer 10 years before her own diagnosis. What's the plan? I picked up a wrench, feeling its familiar weight. You ever design a fail-safe system? Can't say I have. First rule is redundancy. Multiple backup systems. Second rule is isolation. Damage in one area can't cascade to others. Third rule is documentation. Every failure point needs to be recorded for analysis. And the fourth rule, I set down the wrench. When catastrophic failure is imminent, you don't try to save the system. You control the crash to minimize collateral damage. Frank nodded slowly. When do you pull the trigger? Tom needs another week to gather evidence. Robert Sterling is preparing legal frameworks. I've protected the primary assets. I looked at my friend. They're planning something for my birthday next week. Marcus mentioned it, trying to sound casual. You think they'll make their move, then? I'm counting on it. Frank, I need to ask you something. You still have contacts in elder care services? A few. Why? I want to talk to people who've lost their homes to these kinds of schemes. Victims of senior transitions and similar companies. Tom mentioned 3 from Sunrise Manor. Frank's expression grew thoughtful. Building a coalition. Building a case. This isn't just about me anymore. We sat in comfortable silence, 2 old men who'd seen enough of life to know that sometimes the people you love most can hurt you worst. Outside wind rattled the workshop windows, but inside felt secure, protected. I'd built this space with my own hands, every joint precise, every angle true. Now I was building something else, something less tangible, but equally important. A plan to save my son from himself, even if it meant destroying who he'd become. $2,000. That's what Marcus found when he checked the account Monday morning. I know because he called me 17 seconds after the bank opened, his voice climbing octaves with each word. Dad, where's your money? There should be at least $20,000 from your pension and Social Security. I was prepared, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a carefully crafted confusion. Money. Oh, the bills have been terrible this month. The furnace needed work and the property taxes. Property taxes in February. Dad, those aren't due until July. Are you sure? I could have sworn. Maybe I paid ahead. Martha always said to pay ahead when you can. I heard muffled conversation, Jennifer's sharp voice in the background demanding the phone. Marcus's breathing was ragged when he came back on. Dad, we need to talk about your other accounts. The savings, the investments. Other accounts. I let my voice wander. I think Martha had some papers in the filing cabinet. Or was it the safe? I've been meaning to organize everything. We're coming over. Don't go anywhere. Where would I go? It's Monday. I always grocery shop on Tuesday. They arrived in 43 minutes, must have broken speed limits. Marcus's face was flushed. Jennifer's makeup slightly smeared, Derek trailing behind, like a well-dressed shark. They didn't knock, just used the key they'd copied without permission. Dad. Marcus called, finding me in the living room, watching a documentary about World War II aircraft. We need to discuss your finances. All of them. I blinked at him slowly. Didn't we do that already? You have the papers. Jennifer stepped forward. Harry, those accounts only show your monthly income. Where are your retirement savings? Your investment portfolios? Investment. I trailed off, then brightened. Oh, the Boeing stock. Martha handled all that. She was so good with numbers. Derek pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Mr. Peterson, Boeing employees typically have substantial 401k accounts. Where are those statements? I stood up slowly, adding a small stumble that made Marcus reach for my arm. I suppose they're in the office. Martha's filing system was very particular. They followed me like hungry dogs, Jennifer's heels clicking impatiently on the hardwood. In the office, I made a show of opening drawers, randomly shuffling through old tax returns and utility bills. Here, I pulled out a folder marked Investments in Martha's handwriting. Inside were statements from 2019, showing a healthy balance that would have grown substantially by now. Derek snatched them, scanning the numbers. His eyes widened. These show over $600,000 5 years ago. With market growth, that should be worth. Where are the current statements? Jennifer demanded. I looked confused. Aren't those current? These are from 2019. Marcus shouted, then caught himself. Dad, we need the recent ones. Oh. I shuffled to the filing cabinet, taking my time. Martha might have put them. Or maybe I moved them when I was looking for her life insurance papers. Did you know she left me a beautiful letter? Would you like to see it? The statements, Harry, Jennifer said through clenched teeth. I pulled out various folders, creating a small chaos of papers. Tax returns, no. Medical bills, no. Oh, this is from that nice young man who wanted to help with my finances. What was his name? From that company. Marcus went very still. What company? Senior something. Very professional. Said they could help manage everything if I ever felt overwhelmed. Left his card here somewhere. The three of them exchanged looks I wasn't supposed to see. Derek cleared his throat. Mr. Peterson, this is why we're concerned. These vultures prey on seniors. You need family protecting your interests. Family. I repeated, looking at Marcus. Yes, family is important. Your mother always said family looks out for each other. Something flickered in my son's eyes. Shame or just annoyance at the delay? Jennifer had no such qualms. Harry, we need power of attorney. Full power of attorney. Today. But I signed papers already. Those were limited. We need comprehensive protection for you. She pulled out new documents thicker than before. This includes medical decisions, residential choices, asset management. Everything to keep you safe. I sat down heavily in Martha's desk chair. This is all so much. Maybe I should talk to someone first. That nice lawyer who helped with Martha's will? No, Jennifer said sharply, then modulated her tone. I mean, lawyers just complicate things. We're family. We have your best interests at heart. My interests, I murmured, then looked up with calculated innocence. Speaking of interests, Marcus, did you ever find Martha's jewelry box? I wanted to polish her ring. I do that every month, you know. She loved that ring. The silence could have choked a horse. Marcus's Adam's apple bobbed. Jennifer's face went through several expressions before settling on fake concern. Dad, you must have misplaced it. Don't worry, we'll help you look. Misplaced. I let my voice crack. But it's always been on the dresser. For 38 years. Right where I could see it from the bed, so Martha was always close. I stood up, agitated now, pushing past them toward the bedroom. They followed as I searched, checking the dresser, the closet under the bed. My distress was only half-acted. Knowing they'd stolen it, and watching them pretend to help look, made my stomach turn. "It's not here," I said, genuinely upset now. "Her grandmother's ring was in there. She wanted Emma to have it. She made me promise." "Dad, calm down," Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Don't tell me to calm down. That ring survived the Depression, 2 wars, and 60 years of marriage. It doesn't just disappear." Jennifer's phone rang, a welcome interruption for her. She stepped into the hallway to answer. I could hear her sharp voice. "What do you mean the appraisal is on hold? Provenance documentation? That's ridiculous." She came back, face tight. "Harry, did Martha's ring have any documentation? Certificate of authenticity, insurance papers?" I wiped my eyes, letting her see the tears weren't entirely fake. "In the safety deposit box. Martha kept all the important papers there, but the key was in the jewelry box." Derek and Jennifer exchanged another look. Jennifer's jaw clenched. "What bank?" I don't remember. Martha handled all that. First something. First National, First Federal. There are so many firsts." Marcus slumped against the doorframe. The weight of his gambling debts, the promises he'd made to Jennifer, the hole he'd dug, it all showed in the slope of his shoulders. "Dad," he said quietly, "I need you to sign these papers. Please, it's important." I looked at my son, really looked at him. Saw the boy who'd helped me rebuild engines, who'd cried when our dog died, who'd stood tall at his mother's funeral, and held my hand. Somewhere inside, the desperate man was still that boy, buried under bad choices and worse influences. "All right," I said finally. "But I want to have my birthday dinner first. This Saturday. The whole family. Like your mother used to do. Then, we'll handle all this business properly." "Saturday is 5 days away," Jennifer protested. "It's my 69th birthday. Martha always said birthdays matter more as you get older, because you appreciate them properly." I shuffled back toward the living room. "Susan's flying in from California. Haven't seen Emma in months. You'll come, won't you?" They had no choice but to agree. As they left, I heard Jennifer hiss at Marcus. 5 days, that's all. Then we move forward with or without his cooperation." After their car disappeared, I called Tom Kowalski. "They're getting desperate. Jennifer just found out the jewelry needs provenance documentation for sale." "Good timing," Tom said. "I've got video from the Marriott. Audio too. Derek's been recording their conversations, probably for insurance if things go south. He's done this before, likes to protect himself." "Can you get the recordings?" "Already did. You're not going to like what you hear." "I haven't liked anything I've learned this week. Send them over." That evening, I sat in my workshop, listening to my daughter-in-law and her lover plan my future. Derek's voice was clear on the recording. "Once he's in Sunrise Manor, we'll have full access. The house alone is worth $400,000. Add the investment's life insurance when he passes. We're looking at $2 million minimum." Jennifer laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "Marcus actually believes I'll stay with him after this. Poor stupid boy can't see past his debts." "When do you file for divorce?" 6 months after the old man's situated. Has to look natural. Marcus gets nothing in the prenup if I file for cause and gambling debts qualify." "Beautiful," Derek said. "He helps you rob his father, then loses everything. Almost feel sorry for him." "Don't. He was ready to put his own father in a home the second I suggested it. He deserves what he gets." I turned off the recording and sat in the gathering darkness. They were both predator and prey. Marcus and Jennifer, each thinking they were using the other. Only Derek saw the full picture, and even he didn't know about the cameras, the private investigator, the assets already moved beyond reach. Frank knocked and entered. "You okay? Saw you've been out here a while." "Listening to my family plan my imprisonment." Frank whistled low. "Want company for that birthday dinner?" "Already counting on it. You, Susan, Emma, brother James from Florida. Few others." "Others?" I smiled, the expression sharp as winter ice. Tom tracked down 3 families who lost everything to senior transitions. They're very interested in attending a birthday celebration where justice might be served. "Harry Peterson, you devious bastard," Frank grinned. "Martha would be proud." Martha would have handled this with more grace. But she's not here, so they get me instead. I stood up joints, protesting the long sit. Outside, the first hints of spring touched the air, that promise of warmth that Ohio February sometimes offered before snatching it back. Change was coming, whether in weather or family. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for Saturday, when all the predators would gather in one room, not knowing they'd walked into a cage of their own making. Saturday arrived wrapped in unexpected sunshine, the kind of false spring day that makes Ohioans forget winter isn't finished. I spent the morning preparing setting out Martha's good china, the silverware we'd received as wedding gifts, tablecloths she'd embroidered during long evenings. If this was to be a last supper of sorts, it would be done right. Susan arrived at noon with Emma, my granddaughter, a bright spark of energy at 14. "Grandpa!" She hugged me tight, all knees and elbows at that awkward age. "Mom says we're having a big party." "The biggest," I confirmed, winking at Susan over Emma's head. My daughter looked tired but determined, her jaw set in that way that reminded me of her mother. "Dad, are you sure about this?" Susan asked while Emma explored the house. "Would you prefer I wait until they've stolen everything?" "I prefer my brother wasn't a—" She stopped herself. "When did he become this person?" "Gradually, then suddenly. Like bankruptcy," Hemingway said. I adjusted a place setting. "Your Uncle James will be here by 3. The Weatherbys at 4. The Johnsons and Kowalskis at 4:30. Susan recognized the names from our phone conversation, families who'd lost homes to predatory transitions. They all agreed to come. Wouldn't miss it. Turns out people who've been victimized appreciate the chance to prevent others from suffering the same fate. Frank arrived early as planned, carrying a birthday cake from the German bakery Martha had loved. "Metal detectors in the car if you need it," he said quietly. "For weapons. For recording devices. Derek strikes me as the type who likes insurance." By 4 o'clock, my house hummed with conversation. Brother James held court in the living room, his decades as a circuit judge, lending gravity to every word. The 3 families affected by senior transitions clustered near the kitchen, sharing stories that would break your heart if you let them. Agnes Weatherby, 83, forced from her home of 50 years. The Johnson brothers who'd lost their father's farm to legal manipulation. Tom and Patricia Kowalski, whose mother died in a substandard facility after her assets were drained. "They're here," Frank announced from his position by the window. Marcus's BMW pulled up, followed by an unfamiliar Lexus. Derek had upgraded his transportation for the occasion. They emerged in their finest clothes, Jennifer, in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension, Marcus, in a suit I'd never seen before. Expensive. New. Showtime. James murmured, his judge's instincts already reading the situation. They entered without knocking, Jennifer's voice cutting through the warm conversation. "Harold, you didn't mention you were inviting the entire neighborhood. Family and close friends." I corrected, accepting Marcus's perfunctory hug. "Just like Martha used to do. You remember Judge Peterson, Marcus? Your Uncle James." Marcus paled slightly. He'd always been intimidated by James, whose ability to see through lies was legendary in Florida legal circles. "Uncle James, I didn't know you were in town. Wouldn't miss my brother's birthday." James said, his handshake lingering just long enough to make Marcus squirm. "Jennifer, lovely as always. And this must be the financial advisor I've heard about." Derek stepped forward with his salesman's smile, but James had already turned away, dismissing him with the practiced ease of someone who'd sentenced hundreds of con men. "Emma," I called. "Come meet your Uncle Marcus. He probably doesn't recognize you, you've grown so much." My granddaughter bounced over all teenager enthusiasm. "Hi, Uncle Marcus. Mom says you work in marketing. I'm thinking about studying communications in college. Maybe you could give me advice." The innocence in her voice, the genuine interest, hit Marcus like a physical blow. This was his niece, his sister's daughter, and he'd been planning to steal her inheritance. I saw the moment it registered the flicker of something that might have been conscience. Maybe later, Emma, Jennifer interrupted. We have business to discuss with your grandfather. Business. At a birthday party. Susan's voice could have frosted windows. How thoughtful of you to combine the two. Very efficient. The room's temperature dropped, despite the warm day. Agnes Weatherby looked at Jennifer with eyes that had seen too much. You remind me of someone, she said quietly. The woman who convinced my son I needed full-time care. Very concerned about my welfare she was. Right up until the house was sold. Jennifer's smile faltered. I don't believe we've met. No, but I've met your type. They all have the same look, calculating. Like they're adding up your worth while pretending to care. Dad, Marcus said, desperation creeping into his voice. Could we talk privately? It's my birthday. No private conversations. Besides, I have an announcement after dinner. I guided him toward the dining room. Sit. Martha always said food helps difficult conversations. Frank had outdone himself helping me prepare. Pot roast with all the fixings Martha's recipe followed to the letter. As plates were filled, and wine poured none for Marcus, I noticed he was staying sharp. I stood at the head of the table, raising my glass of apple cider. Before we eat, I want to thank you all for coming. Birthdays after 65 are milestones, each one precious. Martha used to say. I paused, letting emotion thicken my voice. She said the measure of a life isn't what you accumulate, but what you pass on. Not just money or property, but values, integrity, the knowledge that family means more than finances. Several people murmured agreement. Marcus stared at his plate. Jennifer checked her phone until Susan pointedly cleared her throat. I've been blessed, I continued. 35 years at Boeing, designing systems to keep people safe. A marriage that gave me 2 children and wonderful grandchildren. Friends who've become family. I nodded at Frank. And family who've become... I looked directly at Marcus. Complicated. The meal proceeded with surface normalcy, but undercurrents swirled like dangerous riptides. Derek tried charming the Johnsons, not knowing they'd lost everything to someone exactly like him. Jennifer attempted conversation with James, who responded with judicial courtesy that revealed nothing. Marcus barely ate, pushing food around his plate like a child. As Frank cleared the dishes and brought out the cake, I stood again. I mentioned an announcement. But first I want to share something Martha left for us. I pulled out a small tablet cued to a video. Martha appeared on screen, thin from illness, but eyes still bright. The room went silent. Hello, my loves. Martha's voice filled the space. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone, and Harry finally figured out the tablet. Technology was never his strong suit. A few chuckles quickly stifled. On screen, Martha continued. I wanted to leave you with thoughts about family, about what matters. Harry and I weren't perfect parents. We made mistakes. But we tried to teach by example. Hard work, honesty, taking care of each other without keeping score. She paused, seeming to look directly at Marcus. I worry sometimes that we gave you too much, that we made life too easy. Struggle builds character, my grandmother used to say. But we wanted to spare you that struggle. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe by protecting you from hardship, we left you unprepared for temptation. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. Marcus had gone very still. But here's what I know, Martha continued. It's never too late to choose differently. Every morning offers a chance to be who you really are, not who circumstances have made you. Harry, my love, take care of our family. Even when they disappoint. Especially then. Because that's when they need us most. The video ended. In the silence that followed, Emma sniffled, wiping her eyes. I miss Grandma. We all do, I said softly, then straightened. Now that announcement. As you know, I've been having some memory issues. Marcus's head snapped up. Jennifer leaned forward. Small things. Confusion. Forgetting where I put items. I let my voice waver slightly. It's made me realize I need to make arrangements while I'm still capable. So, I've made some decisions about my assets. Derek pulled out his phone, probably recording. James noticed and smiled like a shark scenting blood. I've been in contact with several organizations about donations. The house, the investments, the various accounts I've accumulated over the years. I paused, watching their faces. It seems the responsible thing to do is to ensure everything goes where it can do the most good. Dad? Marcus started, but I held up a hand. Please, let me finish. The Alzheimer's Association does wonderful work. The Veterans Administration needs funding. The Martha Peterson Memorial Fund at the Women's Shelter, they could use support. Jennifer was actually vibrating with suppressed rage. Harry, surely family should be considered before strangers. Oh, but I have considered family. Very carefully. Which is why I need to share something else. I moved to the living room, the group following like a funeral procession. You see, I've been documenting some concerning activities lately. I clicked a remote, and the large TV Susan had convinced me to buy last year came to life. Security footage filled the screen. Marcus entering my house while I was out going through my mail. Jennifer in my bedroom taking the jewelry box. Derek outside photographing my property. What is this? Marcus demanded, his face flushing. Documentation, I said mildly. But wait, there's more. The next clip was audio Jennifer and Derek at the hotel. Her voice rang clear. Marcus actually believes I'll stay with him after this. Poor stupid boy can't see past his debts. Marcus turned to stare at his wife, comprehension dawning like a horrible sunrise. Jennifer had gone pale under her makeup. That's not... You recorded us. Derek sputtered, the smooth facade cracking. Not me, I said. You recorded yourselves. Something about insurance. Making sure you had protection if things went wrong. Well, things are about to go very wrong. Tom Kowalski stepped out from the kitchen where he'd been waiting. Mr. Walsh, Mrs. Peterson, you're both named in an active investigation into elder fraud conspiracy and theft. The police are outside waiting for you to leave so they can arrest you with minimal disruption to Mr. Peterson's birthday celebration. Jennifer stood so fast her chair tipped over. You can't prove anything. The jewelry you had appraised reported stolen yesterday. The bank forms fraudulently obtained and improperly dated. The house you put an offer on using my address, wire fraud when you crossed state lines. I counted on my fingers, like I was calculating simple math. Oh, and Marcus, your friends at Senior Transitions. They're also under investigation. Turns out the FBI takes elder abuse very seriously. Marcus collapsed back into his chair. Dad, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. I said, all pretense of confusion gone. You meant to steal from me, lock me away, take everything your mother and I built. You just didn't mean to get caught. Agnes Weatherby stood up. I lost my home to people like you. Died alone in a place that smelled like urine and despair. But at least I get to see you face consequences. The Johnsons nodded agreement. Tom and Patricia Kowalski held hands, tears streaming down their faces. Uncle James, Marcus whispered, can they really? James, who'd been silent throughout the revelations, stood with judicial authority. I've reviewed the evidence. You're looking at conspiracy to commit elder fraud, attempted theft, false imprisonment planning, and about 6 other charges. Federal charges since you involved interstate banking. My recommendation, get a very good lawyer. You'll need one. Derek broke for the door, but Frank was already there, blocking the exit with his Navy veteran frame. I'd sit back down, son. The police get nervous when people run. This is entrapment, Jennifer screamed. He set us up. No, I said calmly. I gave you every opportunity to stop, to be family instead of predators. You chose this path with every lie, every stolen item, every plan to lock me away. I turned to Marcus, my son, my disappointment, my failure. The gambling debts to Vincent Torino paid. $43,000 cleared this morning. That's my last gift to you. What you do from here is your choice. Marcus's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came. "The police will let you finish cake first," I said. "Martha would insist on hospitality even now, but then you'll go with them. Derek and Jennifer will be arrested. You'll be questioned and probably charged as an accomplice, though the prosecutor might go easy given you were also a victim of Jennifer's manipulation." "I wasn't," Marcus started, then stopped. The truth was obvious to everyone. As if choreographed, the doorbell rang. Frank answered it, admitting 2 uniformed officers and a detective in plain clothes. They waited patiently, while Jennifer hyperventilated, and Derek tried unsuccessfully to negotiate. Marcus sat frozen, staring at the birthday cake with 69 candles waiting to be lit. "Make a wish, Harry," Frank encouraged, producing a lighter. I looked around the room at faces both familiar and new at family, both biological and chosen at predators and protectors alike. Then I closed my eyes and blew out the candles in one breath, wishing for something I couldn't have: a different son, a different choice, a different ending. But we don't get to choose our children any more than they choose their parents. We just try to love them through their failures and hope they find their way back to who they could have been. The police read rights in professional monotones. Jennifer demanded lawyers. Derek tried one last time to claim innocence. And Marcus looked at me with eyes that might have held regret, or might have held only regret at being caught. I couldn't tell anymore. As they were led away, Susan put her arm around me. Emma, shocked into silence, held my other hand. The Weatherbys, Johnsons, and Kowalskis gathered close, a circle of souls who understood that sometimes justice tastes like ashes, even when it's necessary. "Happy birthday, Harry," Agnes Weatherby said softly. "You did what I couldn't. You fought back." But standing in my living room, surrounded by the debris of a family dinner, become ambush, I didn't feel victorious. Just old, tired, and tremendously sad that it had come to this. The house felt different after the police left. Quieter, but not peacefully so. More like the silence after a car crash, when everyone's checking for injuries and afraid to speak. The Weatherbys and Johnsons had departed with handshakes and subdued thanks. Tom Kowalski lingered, making sure I had his direct number for any follow-up. Even Frank had gone home, sensing I needed space to process what had just happened. Only family remained. Susan washed dishes with methodical precision, her way of handling stress. Emma sat curled on the couch, occasionally peeking at me with questions she didn't know how to ask. And James, nursing a scotch in Martha's chair, wearing his thinking face. "You planned that beautifully," James finally said. "Every detail. The dated documents, the asset transfers, even having the victims present for moral weight. Prosecution will have an airtight case." "It wasn't about beauty," I replied. "It was about necessity." "Was it?" James leaned forward. "Harry, I've sentenced hundreds of criminals. Most of them had reasons, good reasons even. Poverty, addiction, desperation. But Marcus, he had everything. Maybe that was the problem." Susan emerged from the kitchen, dish towel in hand. "Don't do that, Dad. Don't blame yourself for giving us a good life. Marcus chose this. He chose her. Chose gambling. Chose to betray you. Your mother saw it coming," I admitted. "The video message she recorded that specifically for today. Somehow she knew." Emma finally spoke up. "Grandpa is Uncle Marcus, going to jail. How do you explain to a 14-year-old that family can betray family? That love doesn't prevent cruelty? That sometimes protecting yourself means destroying someone you raised?" "Probably," I said honestly. "He made bad choices, Emma. Very bad ones. But you paid his gambling debts, so you still love him." The simple clarity of youth. I considered my answer carefully. I paid them, so he'd have a chance to start over. Love isn't always about protecting people from consequences. Sometimes, it's about letting them face those consequences while keeping one door open for redemption. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I recognized the Federal Detention Center prefix. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Dad, Marcus's voice was small, scared. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I put him on speaker, wanting witnesses. Sorry for what Marcus getting caught, or for what you tried to do. Everything. All of it. Jennifer, she played me. The debts were killing me, and she said you'd never miss the money. Said you were getting confused anyway that we were helping. By planning to lock me in a facility, by stealing your mother's jewelry. A choked sob came through the line. The ring. Mom's ring. I knew what it meant to her, and I let Jennifer take it anyway. I'm no better than her. No, I said firmly. You're not. You're worse. Jennifer was a stranger who saw an opportunity. You were my son who opened the door for her. Susan made a sharp gesture, but I held up my hand. This needed saying. Do you know what the hardest part was? Marcus. Not the betrayal. Not the theft. It was watching you sit at my table eating food I prepared while planning my imprisonment. Your mother fed you at that same table for 18 years. Changed your diapers, stayed up with your fevers, cheered at every game and concert. And you sat there calculating how quickly you could dispose of me. I didn't think of it like that. No, you didn't think at all, except about money. Silence stretched until I thought he'd hung up. Then quietly, the investigator told me about Jennifer and Derek, about their plan to leave me with nothing. Karma has a sense of humor. I destroyed everything for someone who was using me. His laugh was bitter. God, I'm pathetic. Yes, I agreed. You are. The question is, what are you going to do about it? My lawyer says if I cooperate, testify against Jennifer, and Derek maybe expose the senior transitions operation, I might get probation, community service. And I want to. Not to save myself. I mean, yes, I don't want prison. But those people at your party, the Weatherbys, I did some research. Mrs. Weatherby's son killed himself after losing her house. Left a note saying he couldn't live with what he'd done. I closed my eyes. I hadn't known that detail. I don't want to be him, Marcus continued. I don't want to be someone who destroys families for money. I want to be the son you and Mom raised, even if it's too late. It's never too late to change, I said, echoing Martha's words from the video. But change requires action, not just regret. Will you visit me if I go to prison? I looked at Susan, who shrugged. Your choice, her expression said. We'll see, I said finally. Focus on your legal situation first. And Marcus, whatever happens, don't contact me again until you've done something to earn the right. I hung up without goodbye. Emma immediately crossed to me, wrapping her gangly arms around my shoulders. That was hard, Grandpa. The hardest things usually are, sweetheart. James stood, setting down his empty glass. I should go. Early flight tomorrow. But Harry, you did the right thing. Martha would be proud. Would she? I wasn't so sure. She believed in forgiveness. She also believed in justice. You gave Marcus both a chance to face justice and find forgiveness after. That's more than many get. After James left for his hotel, Susan sent Emma to bed and joined me on the back porch. The night was cool, but not cold spring fighting winter for dominance. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl hooted. I hated him tonight, Susan admitted. My own brother and I wanted him punished. What does that make me? Human, also protective. You saw a threat to your family and responded. Is our family Marcus and Jennifer, or you and Emma? Can it be both? She considered this. Jennifer's going away for a long time. The prosecutor Tom talked to said she's looking at 5 to 10 years, maybe more, if they link her to other schemes. Derek might get longer. He has priors. And Marcus? Depends on his cooperation. Could be anything from probation to 3 years. Susan pulled her jacket tighter. I keep thinking about when we were kids. He always protected me at school. Remember when Billy Morrison kept pulling my hair? Marcus gave him a black eye, got suspended for a week. I remember. Your mother and I couldn't decide whether to punish or praise him. What happened to that boy Dad? The one who defended his sister. I thought about it watching our breath fog in the porch light. Maybe he's still in there. Maybe prison or probation or whatever comes next will help him find that boy again. Or maybe that boy was just another manipulation, doing what he thought would earn approval. You don't believe that. I don't know what I believe anymore. We sat quietly until Susan yawned. I'm taking Emma to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tomorrow. Want to come? No, you two enjoy your time. I have cleanup to do here. She kissed my forehead, a gesture, so like her mother, it made my chest ache. We're staying through Wednesday. Don't think you're getting rid of us that easy. After she went inside, I remained on the porch. The owl hooted again, closer now. Martha used to say owls were messengers, though she could never decide if they brought good news or bad. Tonight felt like both. My phone rang again, Tom Kowalski this time. Harry thought you should know. We just executed search warrants on senior transitions. Found records going back 5 years. Over 200 families affected. The FBI's taking over. This is bigger than local law enforcement can handle. 200 families destroyed. At least, your evidence broke it open. The recordings, the documentation, it's giving dozens of families a chance at justice. Maybe even restitution. Small comfort to Mrs. Weatherby. She doesn't see it that way. Told me tonight was the first time she smiled since losing her home. You gave her that. After Tom hung up, I made one last call. Sterling Law Office Emergency Line. A tired voice answered. Robert Harry Peterson. Sorry to call so late. No worries, I was reviewing your case anyway. Heard the arrests went smoothly. Too smoothly. I need you to set something up. A trust fund, $30,000. For Marcus, but with conditions. He can only access it for education, vocational training, or starting a legitimate business. And only after completing whatever sentence he receives. You sure about this? He's still my son, Robert. Disappointment doesn't erase that. I'll draw up the paperwork Monday. Anything else? Yes. I want to establish a foundation. The Martha Peterson Fund for Elder Protection. Initial funding of $200,000. Grants for families fighting elder abuse, education programs, legal aid. Robert whistled. That's generous. It's necessary. Tonight showed me how many people suffer in silence. If Marcus taught me anything, it's that predators rely on that silence. I'll get started on both. Harry, for what it's worth, you handled this with grace. Grace. Such a small word for such a large concept. I didn't feel graceful. I felt tired, sad, and old. But maybe grace wasn't about feeling. Maybe it was about doing what was necessary despite those feelings. The owl had gone quiet. I stood, joints protesting, and headed inside. Tomorrow would bring lawyers' statements, probably reporters once word spread. The machine of justice would grind forward, processing my family like grist. But tonight, I just wanted to sit in my workshop, surrounded by half-finished projects and tools that never betrayed their purpose. The jewelry box for Emma still needed sanding. Martha's garden tools could use another coat of oil. Simple tasks that connected me to better times when trust wasn't a weapon and love wasn't leverage. The Mustang engine sat under its tarp, waiting for hands that would never help complete it. But Emma had mentioned interest in learning about cars. Maybe a grandfather and granddaughter could finish what a father and son couldn't. It wasn't the ending I'd wanted, but it was the ending we'd earned, all of us, through our choices and failures, and small acts of courage. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. Tonight, I had sawdust and silence, and the strange peace that comes from doing a hard thing well. The workshop light clicked on, illuminating possibilities. I picked up sandpaper and began. 6 months can change everything, or nothing. Depends on what you do with the time. I stood at Martha's grave on a September morning that felt like redemption itself, all blue sky and gentle breeze. The headstone looked good, the new flowers I'd planted blooming in profusion. Purple asters her favorites. Well, love, I said to the polished granite. You were right about the cardinals. 3 of them perched on the cemetery fence watching me with bright black eyes. Martha always said they carried messages between worlds. If so, I had plenty to report. Jennifer got 7 years. The judge, a stern woman who reminded me of Martha, when angry called her a calculated predator who weaponized family bonds for profit. The prosecution presented evidence of 4 other elderly victims across 3 states. Jennifer's lawyer tried painting her as a woman driven to desperation by Marcus's gambling debts, but the recorded conversations with Derek destroyed that narrative. She'd cried during sentencing, but they were crocodile tears. Even facing prison, she was performing. Derek received 10 years, his prior convictions weighing heavy. Turns out, Tom Kowalski had understated the man's history. 11 elderly victims over 15 years, 3 of whom died in substandard facilities after losing their homes. 1 suicide. The FBI found notebooks where Derek rated potential marks like wine vintages. Jennifer had been rated exceptional vintage worth extended cultivation. And Marcus. My son stood before a different judge, one who'd known James in law school. He pled guilty to conspiracy to commit elder fraud and received 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and mandatory therapy. The light sentence came because he'd turned state's evidence providing detailed testimony about senior transitions operations. His information led to 17 arrests across 4 states. But the real judgment came from mirrors and memories harder to face than any court. He's here, I told Martha Stone. Like you said he would be. Marcus's Honda Civic, bought used with money earned from 2 jobs, pulled up the cemetery drive. He emerged, slowly carrying flowers of his own. Still thin from stress, still bearing that haunted look of someone who'd seen their own ugliness reflected back, but standing straighter than he had at sentencing. Dad, he said, stopping 10 feet away like there was an invisible fence between us. Marcus. We'd met monthly, since his sentencing, always in public places. Coffee shops, where the buzz of strangers kept things surface level. This was his first visit to Martha's grave since her funeral. He approached the headstone, kneeling to place his flowers beside mine. Hi, Mom. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry for everything. I gave him privacy with his grief, walking among other stones, reading names and dates, the arithmetic of lives reduced to dashes between years. When I returned, Marcus was sitting cross-legged in the grass, tears running unchecked. She visited me, he said without looking up. In dreams, never speaking, just looking disappointed. Do you think the dead can do that? Visit, I mean? Your mother could do anything she set her mind to. Death probably didn't change that. He almost smiled. Remember when she made me return the candy bar I stole from Kroger? I was 6. She made me apologize to the manager and pay from my piggy bank. You cried the whole way home. She said disappointment was worse than anger because it meant someone expected better from you. He traced Martha's name on the stone. I disappointed her so much at the end. Yes, you did. The blunt truth made him flinch, but he nodded. Dr. Brennan, my therapist says I need to stop softening facts. That acknowledging harm is the first step to making amends. How's that going? Therapy hard. Turns out I've been manipulating people since childhood. Not maliciously, just learned behaviors. Dad works late, so act sick for Mom's attention. Mom's tired, so be extra good for privileges. He pulled grass absently. Jennifer saw those patterns immediately, played them like a violin. Don't blame her for your choices. I'm not. I'm saying she was a master at exploiting existing weaknesses. Like Derek with her. Predators, recognizing predators. He finally looked at me. The FBI says my testimony has helped recover almost $3 million in stolen assets. 14 families will get their homes back. Good. Does it balance out what I tried to do to you? Nothing balances. Actions exist independently. You did evil, now you're doing good. One doesn't erase the other. We sat in comfortable silence. Well, as comfortable as silence can be, between a father and son, separated by betrayal. The Cardinals had moved closer, pecking at something in the grass. "I got a job offer," Marcus said eventually. "The prosecutor's office. They want me consulting on elder fraud cases, helping them understand how families get manipulated. It's part-time minimum wage, but it's honest work." "Yeah. My marketing firm fired me after the arrest. Word spreads. Nobody wants a financial predator handling their accounts." He laughed bitterly. "Ironic, right? I'm better at marketing than I ever was at fraud, but it's the fraud that defines me now." "For now. Definitions can change." "Can they?" He pulled out an envelope. "I've been writing letters. To the Weatherbys, the Johnsons, everyone at your party. Apologies. Dr. Brennan says written acknowledgement helps victims process trauma." He handed me the envelope. "This one's yours." I tucked it away unread. Later, in private. "Susan won't see me," he continued. "I've respected that. Emma sent a birthday card last month, though. Just signed her name, but still. She's processing, too. You were her cool uncle who gave expensive gifts. Now you're the uncle who tried to rob Grandpa. That's a hard adjustment at 14. I want to earn their forgiveness. Yours, too. But I don't know how." "Time," I said simply. "Consistency. Being who you claim to want to be, not just performing it." He stood brushing off his jeans. "I should go. Meeting with the FBI at 2. They're building a case against a ring in Michigan, want my input on family dynamics." "Marcus." I stood too, my knees protesting. "The trust fund Robert Sterling established. It's there when you're ready. Not for spending, but for building. Education training starting over properly." His eyes widened. "You saved money for me after everything?" "Your mother would have insisted." "I don't deserve—" "No," I cut him off. "You don't. That's what makes it grace." He broke then, sobbing like the child I once comforted after nightmares. I didn't embrace him, not yet, but I didn't step away either. Some distances can't be crossed in single leaps. They require patience, small steps, and faith that the bridge you're building won't collapse. "I'm volunteering at the senior center," he said when he could speak again. "Teaching internet safety, helping them recognize scams. Yesterday, Mrs. Chen said I saved her from a phishing attempt. It felt good, clean." That's a start. Will it ever be enough? I don't know, but doing nothing definitely wouldn't be. He nodded, understanding. "I love you, Dad. I know I've got no right to say it, but I do." "I know," I said, which was all I could offer. Love was there, buried under rubble, but excavation takes time. After Marcus left, I sat with Martha a while longer. Told her about Emma's straight-A report card, Susan's promotion, Frank's new girlfriend, who made him act like a teenager. Normal things, good things. The life that continues despite fractures. Back home, I found Susan in the kitchen, making Martha's apple pie. She'd extended her visit, then extended it again, and was now talking about transferring to the Columbus office permanently. "He came to the cemetery," I told her. She nodded, unsurprised. "I saw him drive past. How was it?" "Painful, necessary, incomplete." "Sounds about right." She handed me a peeler and pointed at the apples. "I'm thinking about letting him see Emma. Supervised. Maybe Christmas." "That's generous." "That's strategic. Emma's curious about him. Better to control the interaction than have her seek him out later." She measured cinnamon with Martha's precision. "He's my brother, Dad. I hate what he did, but I can't hate him forever. It's exhausting." "Your mother's daughter." "In some ways. In others." She gestured at the kitchen window where new security cameras monitored the yard. "Trust but verify. Ronald Reagan had one thing right." That evening, I sat in my workshop, finally reading Marcus's letter. 3 pages of cramped handwriting confessing sins I knew, and some I didn't. He'd stolen from my wallet regularly for 2 years. Convinced Martha to change her pain medication so he could sell the extras. Told Jennifer about the safety deposit box while Martha was dying. But the last paragraph shifted. I know apologizing isn't enough. Words are what I used to manipulate, so why should you trust them now? But I need you to know that every morning I see Mom's disappointed face. Every night, I remember sitting at your kitchen table planning to destroy you while you fed me. That memory tastes like poison. It should. Some things should hurt forever, so we never forget what we're capable of. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for the chance to become someone who doesn't need it anymore. Your son, if I can still claim that, Marcus? I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer with other important documents. Outside evening painted the sky in pastels Martha would have loved. The bird feeder needed refilling. The garden required weeding. Emma's jewelry box was finally ready for staining. Life, in other words, continued its patient insistence. The phone rang. Frank inviting me to dinner with his new lady friend. She wants to meet the famous Harry Peterson, who took down a crime ring. Infamous, maybe. Hero to every senior in Columbus. You coming or not? I agreed, because friendship matters more as you age. Because isolation breeds bitter thoughts. Because Martha would have insisted. Before leaving, I stopped at her photo in the hallway. Our wedding picture, both of us young and ignorant of what 4 decades would bring. The joy, the pain, the child who'd betray every value we'd tried to instill. We did our best, I told her image. It wasn't enough, but it was honest. In the photo, Martha smiled her knowing smile, the one that said she understood more than she let on. Maybe she'd known how it would all turn out. Maybe that's why she'd recorded that video, leaving words of wisdom for a day she wouldn't see. Or maybe she just hoped, as we all do, that love would be enough to prevent disaster. It wasn't. But it might be enough for whatever comes after. I locked the door, checking it twice. A new habit, born of broken trust. The evening was warm, perfect for walking. Somewhere, Jennifer stared at prison walls. Derek planned appeals he'd lose. And Marcus, my prodigal son, taught internet safety to people who'd learned to fear family more than strangers. None of it erased the pain. The jewelry was returned, but felt tainted. The safety deposit box remained secure, but served as reminder of what greed could do. Trust, once shattered, reassembles differently, with visible seams and careful reinforcements. But life moves forward, carrying us along regardless of readiness. Tonight, I'd eat good food with good friends. Tomorrow, Emma would video call to show off her science project. Next month, Susan would officially move home, bringing life back to quiet streets. And eventually, maybe Marcus would earn his way back to the table. Not to the same seat that one was gone forever, but perhaps to a new place, humbler and harder one. A place for someone who'd learned that family isn't about what you can take, but what you can give. Who understood that inheritance isn't money, but values, and the greatest bankruptcy is moral, not financial. The cardinals were settling into their roosts as I walked past red feathers darkening in twilight. Martha's messengers carrying news between worlds. If so, let them carry this. We survived. Damaged, but not destroyed. Wiser, but not cynical. Still capable of grace, even when it comes wrapped in consequence. That's all any of us can hope for, really. To face our failures, make what amends we can, and keep walking toward whatever redemption awaits. One careful step at a time, watching for ice and predators, but still moving forward. Because the alternative, stopping, giving up, letting bitterness win, would disappoint Martha more than any betrayal. And I'd had enough of disappointment for one lifetime. Thank you for joining me on this journey of heartbreak, justice, and ultimately hope. If you've ever faced betrayal from those you trusted, most know that you're not alone. Your pain is valid, your caution is wisdom, and your capacity to rebuild is stronger than you know. I'm curious. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have chosen justice or immediate forgiveness? Have you ever had to protect yourself from family who saw you as an opportunity rather than a person to love? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more stories about family redemption and the complicated truth that sometimes protecting those we love means letting them face the consequences of their choices. Share this with anyone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself isn't cruel, it's necessary. Until next time, remember, the greatest inheritance we can leave isn't money, but wisdom. And the most valuable thing we can teach our children is that actions have consequences, but redemption remains possible for those willing to do the hard work of change. Stay strong, stay wise, and always verify before you trust.